Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Sunday Afternoon Smokes, your casual conversation podcast from the upstate of South Carolina. My name is Chris. I'm your host. I'm a realtor, and I'm also the owner and operator of the Cigar Box, a mobile cigar bar that serves the upstate and beyond. Most conversations are enjoyed over a cigar while I interview the local entrepreneurs, business professionals, and entertainers that make the greater Greenville area one of the most popular places to live in the country. So I hope you get to sit back, light a cigar, and enjoy the show. And today I'm excited to have the opportunity to sit down with John Malik. By now, you know, I like to let my guests introduce themselves. John, I see you've already lit your cigar, so
yes, sir.
Take a minute, say hi, say as much or as little about yourself as you like, and I'm going to light my cigar while you do that.
So that introduction to your podcast, I'm sitting here wondering, well, if those are your guests, then why am I here? What?
Well, I mean, because you're an entrepreneur. I mean, you've done a lot of cool stuff. Yeah, I think so. Just from the little that I know about you and the things that you shared with me in the guest preview form before, a couple of weeks ago. I mean, you're just an interesting guy and very entrepreneurial in the mindset. Some great stories. I just thought you'd be great to have on.
Yeah, years ago, somebody had told me that, you know what? He said, you know what, Malik? You're one of those people that makes Greenville really cool, that helped make Greenville really cool. And I was like, thank you very much.
That's a high compliment, man.
Yeah.
Made Greenville really
Yeah, it was another chef. It was another chef that told me that.
Yeah.
You know?
So, do you have anything in particular about yourself before we jump in? Did you like to share? Or we're just gonna get into it?
Anything particular?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people.
Okay.
Yeah,
I got something.
Okay.
So I spent about 7 years as a food and travel writer for the Huffington Post, right? And in addition to my culinary background, so I was a storyteller before I was a professional cook.
Okay.
Right. So I still have a booklet at home that I made when I was in 5th grade. Stories by John Malik, and it's laced together with a shoestring, right?
Oh,
and I probably gave it to my mom. It was just stuff that I was doing in school, and I put some of that stuff together and gave it to my mom. So anyway, while I was food and beverage director at the Cascades, this fancy retirement community, I wrote this novel, right? And I'd always been told, you write what you know. So I wrote this novel, love story about a chef in Greenville who's chef of a retirement community. He's a widower, and he falls in love with the executive director. Anyway, I pitched a review I self-published, but a year later, a publisher picked me up, a legit publisher. So when it was still self-published, I pitched a review to the Huffington Post. And I got a response back, don't remember who, but he said, hey, we generally don't do reviews like that. However, would you like to write for us? And if so, submit something. And so and prior to that, I've written guest columns for the Greenville News. I currently write for the Greenville Journal, but I've written for a variety of magazines. One was Air and Space. I've had a essay published in Smithsonian Air and Space. So anyway, I submitted something to the Huff Post, and they said, "Hey, we love this. Would you consider writing for us?" And they didn't have a particular schedule, and this was prior to when it was bought by Verizon. A lot of stuff changed, but this is when it was still the Huffington Post. And so I just started writing about just life stories. A couple other writers told me that I really should specialize in food, wine, and travel. So I'll start doing that, right? And then one day, this is in 2015. I was getting kind of irritated at all the press that Greenville was getting, right? I don't know, maybe call it grumpy old man syndrome. But so I wrote this tongue-in-cheek article in late 2015, and I titled it 10 Reasons not to visit or move to Greenville, South Carolina in the coming year, right? And it was totally tongue-in-cheek, right? And one of them was, one of the reasons was we still drink out of a hose, right? Because the water's good. We have good water. We still drink out of a hose. And if you move from, one of the big cities up north or far west, you're going to see people drinking out of a hose. You're going to think they're trying to kill themselves. Right.
That's funny.
So 7 years writing for the Huffington Post. Prior to that, I think my most popular article was about St. Pete, Florida, a weekend in St. Pete, Florida while we were having a terrible winter storm up here. My wife and I went to St. Pete for work and for a client. So anyway, this great, wonderful weekend in St. Pete. I write this glowing review of St. Pete, Florida, and I called it "I'll Have St. Pete with a Squeeze of Lime." And I had like 600,000 impressions on that story, right? And the mayor of St. Pete even tweeted to me, right? And he said, "Hey, Chef John Malik, thank you so much for the great story. Next time you're in St. Pete, you reach out to the office. We'll go have lunch or whatever," because so many people were reading the story and sharing it. So anyway, I write this story about why you should not visit or move to Greenville, South Carolina in 2016, total tongue-in-cheek stuff. 1.5 million readers, right? So much, and even the HuffPost, my editor at the HuffPost said, "Hey, John."
1.5 million.
Oh my gosh, it was and
wow.
Like the third or fourth day after it came out, I go to the community tap.
Yeah.
Over there in Wade Hampton.
Right.
I go sit down. Ed's behind the bar. Ed Buffington's behind the bar. And so I order a beer and he goes, and the guys next to me, the couple next to me are reading that story on their phone. And then Ed says, "Hey man, I love that story you wrote." And I said, "Oh, which one?" And he goes, "The one about why you shouldn't move to Greenville." And there's people next to me reading that story, laughing. And they turn and look at me and they go, "Did you write this? Seriously?" And Ed introduces me. He says, "Yeah, this is Chef Malik."
Unbelievable.
And so so a couple other people come over. He says, "Hey, that guy that wrote," that we had a radio show at the time on WORD. I can't remember this gentleman's name, but he was big in talk radio, local host. He was talking about it. The Greenville News was talking about it. And I was like, wow, what a... Man. And I got hate mail from several people, right? "Oh, drink out of hoses. Oh yeah, we're all just dumb rednecks here."
Man,
yeah. So there you go. So there's my story.
That's a great introduction story. We'll get into all that because Chef John Malik certainly is a bit of a wordsmith. Does quite a bit of writing, and but also obviously a chef, cigar smoker. And so, we're going to get into the cigar section. Cigar section's always the first part of the podcast. What we're smoking today is a Red Meat Lovers Robusto. This is a Connecticut broadleaf wrapper, a Mexican San Andreas binder, and a Nicaraguan and U.S. filler. So we've got like a four-country blend here. And it's an interesting story behind this cigar.
Okay.
So this cigar is a project of a beef club, a red meat club that started to be a counterpart. I did a little bit of reading on it. Counterpart to the Tulane University club called SAVE. All these college kids started this club called SAVE, which stands for Students Advocating Vegetarian Eating. And so this other kid on the university campus, Evan Darnell is his name. And back then, in the 15, 16, whatever it was, 14, he said, "I was walking through campus and I saw this sign about SAVE, about these students, advocating for vegetarian eating." And he said, there should be a club about eating
right.
They
need competition.
Yeah. So he started this club and it kind of grew. And then he wound up moving things to Florida. He kind of relaunched it, and now Red Meat Club is much bigger. This cigar they designed this specifically for them, and that club's all about red meat, obviously, great drink, friends, and celebrating each other's accomplishments. And this is really one of my favorite cigars. And I think I mean,
okay, why is that?
I like the big flavor profile on
Yeah.
it that comes from the Mexican San Andreas and the Connecticut broadleaf. Maybe maybe a little bit of spice from the Nicaraguan tobacco in there. Maybe not a ton, but I prefer to be on my cigar smoking medium, but to full. I mean, if I could smoke Maduros all the time, I would. I mean, I guess I could, but I don't. I smoke the whole spectrum.
Sure.
Just for, being in the business and going to events and people want to know about this cigar.
Sure.
I try and have smoked it, but the heartier tobaccos, Mexican San Andreas, Pennsylvania broadleaf, Connecticut broadleaf, those rugged leaves that impart more bold flavor. I just enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. How often do you smoke?
Cigars?
Yes.
Maybe 2 or 3 a year. Not much.
Oh, really? Okay, so this is kind of a treat then.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a treat for me. For you.
Yeah, so I was honored.
A little bit of a cigar treat for you. What do you think of this cigar so far?
Love it. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. Just like it's everything you said.
Yeah, it's bold, I think. And you picked out a red wine to go with that.
Yeah.
I am not educated on wine. I'm clueless, other than I can tell you what color it is.
Yeah,
but
Spanish style Grenache.
Okay,
Yeah, it's perfect.
goes well with that cigar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. That's what I figured. This cigar. I mean, this is obviously it's Red Meat Lovers Club. That's the name of the cigar, which is named after the club. And this is a kind of a cigar you would smoke, I think, after having a big steak dinner.
Sure.
with a bold red wine.
Yeah.
Or maybe a port or a porter stout beer, something like that. You love, and I notice you're just kind of waving that around in front of your face, just kind of gathering, where you get.
So many of the ancient civilizations believed that smoke had a purification quality, right?
Yeah.
And now there's and still in many religions, there's ceremonies that come with smoke, whether through incense or whatever.
No, it's huge. I mean, I've seen, probably read things and even seen in certain movies where they try and, be somewhat accurate. You'll see the Indians wafting the smoke over themselves.
Sure. Yeah.
Or even, I mean, you don't have to go that far from mainstream religion like the Catholic Church, and they come with their smoke.
Oh, sure.
Incense pot and smoke's going, and they're doing. I mean, I don't know what that's all about because I'm not Catholic, but you're right. I mean, just that ancient history and the smoke, and of course, I wonder the link there. I would think smoke comes from fire, and fire is very. I
mean, your survival. Yeah. Your survival depended on it.
Yeah. It's a way to cook your food. It's a way to keep you warm. It's a way to protect you from
wild animals. Right.
Yeah. So the byproduct of a fire being smoke, I can see why the ancient peoples thought this must be a holy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we should write an article about it.
Yep. Maybe.
So, like you said, you only smoke about 2 to 3 cigars a year, and I mean you're on track because we're in the first quarter. Here's your first
there we go.
For the
there
year.
we go.
It's starting off right, but where does your cigar journey begin? Like, when did you first get into cigars, if you can recall?
Probably in New Orleans. The second legit restaurant I worked at was called Restaurant de la Tour Eiffel. Frenchman owned it, and it was let's see, in the 70s, I think, the French dismantled the Eiffel Tower because it had been up for 100 years and it was rusting, and there was a restaurant on the second level, right? So they took that building out and set it aside, and then they decided, we're not going to put it back. So they put the Eiffel Tower back up. They got this restaurant sitting in several 40-foot containers. Some gentleman in New Orleans bought this restaurant, put it up on St. Charles Avenue.
Well, they just dismantled a restaurant and put it on ships and sailed it over.
And they paid $1 million for it.
That's wild.
Yeah, exactly. That building is still there. It's now an event space. So And incidentally, today is Mardi Gras, right? It's the last day of the Mardi Gras season. So I didn't even realize that when I when I agreed to be on the podcast on Fat Tuesday. So anyway, we had a sommelier over there that I became friends with, and we went out a couple times. And one night he had Cuban cigars with him. And there was like 3 or 4 of us, a couple of cooks, sommelier, and a waiter. And he had a bottle of red wine and some cigars, and we drank red wine and smoked cigars. And I was like, wow, this is great.
Yeah.
You know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great introduction to cigars, just hanging out in the Big Easy.
Yeah.
Got some cigars, got some friends, got some wine.
Right.
And you're just enjoying yourself.
Had a couple of baguettes. We had some butter, not much else.
Well, man, that's hard to beat, though. Just so simple,
right?
Simple food that's good. A baguette smeared with some butter. I mean,
right?
Especially if it's salted butter.
Yep.
Just for a little bit of. It's just fantastic. So you gave me quite a bit of material to work with before the show. Like you said, what, 26 years in New Orleans?
Yep, born and raised.
Okay, was a question. So you're literally from New Orleans,
right? Correct.
That's awesome. And then from 88 to 94 in Charleston,
with my lovely wife.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Executive sous chef at Mills House Hotel.
Right.
From Charleston to Greenville, where you were chef of Augusta Grill for 5 years, opened 33 Liberty Restaurant in 2001. And there's just a whole lot more there. But I want to start back in New Orleans.
Sure.
Partially because that's where you started. I mean, literally, and everything else. But I have roots in L.A. My dad's from Louisiana. I always call Louisiana the real L.A. That's what I call
right.
Me and my brothers, that's how we referred to it. So I grew up in Southeast Texas, about half an hour from the Gulf and 45 minutes-ish to the border of Louisiana. That's still huge Cajun country.
Yep.
All that stuff down in there. So my dad...
New Orleans is not Cajun country.
No?
No.
This just would be... well, see, you go ahead and educate me.
You gotta go further south.
Okay, you got to keep coming south.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So what? New Orleans would be French
Creole.
French Creole. I'm sorry, is that what you said?
Creole.
French Creole.
Yes, sir.
And what's the difference there between Cajun and French Creole?
Creole city people, city folks.
Okay.
Right. Cajun is well. I mean, what's a hillbilly?
I was just fixing to say they're the hillbillies.
What is that?
They're the rednecks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Their food's good.
Yeah, food's great. Oh my gosh, you kidding? Food's amazing.
Okay.
Right.
So you went into culinary school there in New Orleans, or how did you get into the culinary scene?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm the middle of 5 kids. So middle child tends to be helpful, right? And my mom, so my mom was a nurse. She met my dad in nursing school when he was at a dance. He was in law school. She was in nursing school. And so I'm the middle child. And my mom grew up on a ranch in Durango, Mexico. Her parents were cattle ranchers, professional cattle ranchers. And Granddaddy got a job offer from this gentleman that owned this big ranch called the Ojo, which means spring, or eye, right? One of the quirks of the Spanish language. So Granddaddy goes to run this big ranch in Mexico, and that's where my mom was born. So when she's 19, she left Mexico or 19 or 20, she leaves Mexico for nursing school in New Orleans. So Mom cooked all the time at home. And when I was little, we moved out to the burbs, this little town called La Place, which was full of Cajuns, right?
Yeah.
And all my mom's friends cooked crawfish this, chicken étouffée that, gumbos and, coubillons and étouffées and so on and so forth. My mom she's making tamales and
Man, I love a good
right,
tamale.
right. I know, right? Mom was a great cook. And so when we were a little bit older, she went back to work. She'd come home in her nurse's outfit and jump into the kitchen. And I just was the one that would gravitate to helping her. And I can remember being, 10, 12 years old and her telling me, one day you'll be a great husband or you'll be a great chef one day. And so in college, my dad being an attorney and then later he was a judge. So I majored in English with the goal of going to law school after I graduated because that's a good segue into attorneydom, right? But I started cooking when I was in college and burger joint here, sandwich joint there. And this was during the time of Paul Prudhomme, who was like the first celebrity chef, the first American celebrity chef, right? And he was like such an anti-hero, right? Everybody on TV at the time was fit and handsome and right, polished. And here's Paul, all 350 pounds of him, right? Cooking the foodstuffs that I grew up with. Andouille sausage, sweet potatoes, Creole tomatoes, shrimp, all the stuff that you either bought it on the side of the highway or you went off in the weekend to go fishing or shrimping and crawfish. Crawfish, they're like these little lobsters, but like our house where we lived, the water table was so high that crawfish would make their homes in your front yard.
Oh, yeah.
And they have these little mud chimneys.
Yeah.
They
used to have it in my front yard in Southeast Texas. We used to have, they would often build, we had, they don't have that around here, but we had ditches.
Sure,
Down in the front yard. And when
pick up a Coke bottle out of the ditch and there'd be a crawfish in there.
Yeah.
Right.
And just had these, like you said, this little mud chimney that would stick up above the ground.
Yeah.
And you knew there was a crawfish in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You don't see her out here.
So they're basically like yard pests, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
To the rest of the world, right? And here's Paul Prudhomme on the Today Show and in these magazines, and he's cooking crawfish and sweet potatoes and Creole tomatoes and all this great stuff that we were getting from the neighbors or whatever. You'd go, you'd put on your waders and go crawfishing in the swamp, right? And just something struck me about that. I was like, man, look at this guy. And he's just cooking all this stuff that we've all been cooking. What's going on there? And halfway through my 4 years of college, I was like, I want to be a chef. Boy, I'd talk about disappointing dad. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Judge.
Yeah, I know. Boy, he was like so upset.
Did he come around to it?
He did. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
It wasn't right away, though.
Sure. I just, I figured that probably he came around much later.
Right, exactly.
Not,
exactly.
later, but.
Yeah. So I get out of Southeast Louisiana University, got an English degree from there. Studied all the great writers, Shakespeare and all those wonderful writers, and enrolled at Delgado Community College, which was in City Park area of New Orleans. They had a culinary arts program because Paul Prudhomme, remember my mom was a nurse, so Paul Prudhomme has surgery, and he's in the recovery ward. My mom was a surgical nurse, right? The kind that said, doctor said scalpel, she would give him the scalpel. So she's talking to Paul Prudhomme while he's recovering from surgery, and he says, my son wants to be a chef, and he wants to go to the CIA in New York, Culinary Institute of America. And Paul Prudhomme grabbed her hand and said, you tell him, don't make that mistake. He should stay here. He should study here. He should go to Delgado and end up and go work at one of the great restaurants in New Orleans. Why does he want to go out of state to learn how to be a chef? He should stay right here. She came home and told me that, right? And she probably called me because I was in school, so junior in university, and I was like, wow, So Paul Prudhomme even though I'd never met the man. I'd have dinner at his restaurant a couple times. Well, I did meet him, but it was
Sure.
Yeah, it was anyway. So Paul Prudhomme convinced my mother who convinced me, right?
Well,
so
I mean, there's a pretty heavy weight behind
right,
that
exactly.
argument.
No pun intended.
No pun intended to
Right.
Prudhomme, but I mean that's awesome when you get just directly from the guy.
Yeah.
From him to your mom to you. Hey, you don't need to do that.
Right.
Great opportunities right here.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So moved into New Orleans. My roommate and I, we found an apartment in the Garden District of New Orleans, right? And golly, I think we were paying like $400 a month.
Yeah.
Now it'd be $40,000 or whatever.
Yeah, it's insane.
And I went to Delgado. I got a job at Christian's Restaurant, which was at the time was one of the top 5 restaurants in the city, probably. And my wife, I'll tell you a funny story. So I got that job about a month before school started, right? Delgado's campus is in City Park, mid-city of New Orleans. Christian's was maybe 5 miles away from there, and where we lived, we were close to the river. So first day of culinary school is when I met my wife, right?
Okay.
So here, imagine this. It's August in New Orleans.
Oh, it's hot.
Oh, it's hot. It's so, in the heat, the humidity, you cannot escape it.
No.
The best air conditioners, I mean, this is 1980,
Yeah.
right? So there's like, the first day, and the guy running the program, so he's got there's probably 50 of us, and we're crammed in this classroom that seats 30, right? And this campus, Delgado's campus, is probably, post World War II. And the air conditioners were no way going to keep up. So it's hot and sweaty in this room, and there's 45 of us crammed into this classroom, and so there's not enough seats for everybody. There's all these aluminum folding chairs, and there's some people standing in the corners. There's a couple guys standing behind the chef. The chef's behind his desk, right? And so there's 6 or 8 people that are standing, some people that are sitting, in the corners and whatnot. And so Chef has given us the rundown. Now, we're about to start a 3-year apprenticeship program. Part of that learning, we're going to be done in a classroom environment. Part of it will be at the restaurant you work at, and you'll have a booklet you're going to have to keep up with, right? So he's given us the rundown and telling us how we're going to dress for class. And he says, you're going to wear black non-slip shoes, you're going to wear black socks, you're going to wear houndstooth pants, you're going to have a white chef coat. Your chef coat will be ironed. It will be clean. Don't you dare show up in a dirty chef coat. And please, that chef coat will be ironed. And so at the words ironed, a couple hands come up, right? And he says, and he asks this one guy with his hands up, and he says, "Did you have a question?" And he goes, now, this guy was average age at the time in that classroom was probably mid-20s. We're all adults. There's some that are like maybe 18, 19, but for the most part, we're adults. And this guy, who's clearly knows better, he says, "What if you don't have an iron?" Right? And
Bad idea.
And poor Chef is up there, and he's like, and he throws his hands up, and he's like, "What do you mean?" So, there's a guy standing against the wall. Now, this guy's Bernard. His name was Bernard. I can't remember his last name. It's probably like Thibodeau or one of those, exactly, Fondeau, or one of those Cajun names, right? Yeah. Now, this guy was a shrimper. I learned later that he'd spent years on a shrimp boat, right? Salt of the earth guy, right? So he looks at Chef, and he says, "Yo, Chef, you want me to take this one?" Right? First hour of a 3-year program, right? And so Chef turns and he looks at him and he goes, "Bernard, be my guest," right? He's just like wondering, where is this going, right? And Bernard says in that thick Cajun accent, he goes, Shad, now look, here's what you're going to do. Now, in the morning when you take that hot shower, you're going to take that chef coat, you're going to hang that chef coat in your shower, in your bathroom, right? You take yourself a long hot shower, man, that steam going to take them wrinkles right out.
Yeah.
Right? And now people are nodding and I'm like giggling, right? Because my mom, taught me how to iron.
Yeah.
Right? For church.
Yeah.
Anyway, an iron, what's an iron back then? It's probably $10, whatever.
Sure.
So anyway, so now there's some heads nodding, right? Oh yeah, that's a good idea, right? And now Bernard's not finished, right? And he says, now, if that don't work, here's what you're going to do. You're going to take that chef coat, you're going to lay it down on your bed. Now you're going to take yourself a liquor bottle, right? You can fill that liquor bottle up with that hot water. Good old hot water in that liquor bottle. You're going to put the cap on. Now you're going to roll that liquor bottle on top of that chef coat, right? Take them wrinkles right out.
That's innovation, man.
Right?
You come up with a solution to solve a problem that you don't have the tools for.
Now, the funny part is like half the people in the classroom are nodding their head going, oh yeah, that's a great idea, right?
I mean, I've never even heard of that. I mean, I knew the hang it in your bathroom while
exactly.
showering, but I never would think to fill
a liquor bottle
full of hot water.
Now another hand comes up though, right? And this guy asks, and he goes, Bernard, will any liquor bottle work? And Bernard shoots back, no! Some of them liquor bottles are square, like that Jack Daniels bottle. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, you got to get a round bottle. Get that round Bacardi bottle. That Bacardi bottle's perfect. And you roll it in that chef coat, take them wrinkles right out. And I'm dying laughing, right? And I'm at the end of my row, and we're on these folding aluminum chairs. Yeah. And I'm like, and I look down at everybody in the row, and there's like 6 or 7 people at the end of the row. There's a pretty young lady over there, right? And she's laughing too. She's trying not to be disrespectful, right? Because first hour of 3 days, whatever, we gotta get along. But she looks at me and I'm looking at her, and the look in her eyes said, my mom taught me how to iron. And if you need an iron, if you don't have an iron, well, you go buy a damn iron.
Right.
Well, it's not the chef's problem to solve, right?
Yeah. I mean, like you said, you're an adult. You should know better than that. It's such a stupid question.
So that's how I met my wife. And then the next week, she interviewed at Christian's restaurant, and I happened to be in the kitchen. I looked out under the dining room, and she was interviewing with chef, and her back was to the kitchen. But I recognized her just from that.
Yeah.
And the next day in school, I said, hey, didn't you interview at Christian's yesterday? And her name was Amy Stafford. And that was 39 years ago or so. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
So
that's how you got started. And then
that's
gonna take off from there.
And then we ended up we spent a year after we got married. We spent a year in New Orleans. When we graduated, we wanted to have an adventure, and we wrote letters to different restaurants and hotels up and down the East Coast, and had interviews in Atlanta, Birmingham, Orlando, Washington, D.C., Charlottesville, Virginia. And then when we got to Charleston, we just fell in love with Charleston.
Yeah. So just here.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm just curious. I mean, I grew up on that Cajun food, man, on the chicken and sausage gumbo.
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh.
You know, we didn't really make seafood gumbo at home. Mama always made chicken and sausage.
Sure.
And I just think it's so good. I mean, it's a great dish. It's even better in the fall. It's better than it's got the same characteristics as a lasagna. It's better the next day. In fact, I interviewed Chef Craig Coons a few weeks ago, and he was asking me whenever he found out I
love that man.
Country. Craig's a great guy.
Yeah,
he's a super fun guy. I like him a lot. But he was asking me, since I was from Cajun country, he's like, okay, do you put rice or potato salad in your gumbo? And I'm like, well.
And did you throw him out? right then and there? You say, that's it, we're done.
No.
Get out of here. I never want to see you again.
The way we grew up, it was with rice. That's
Right.
just how, I was raised. But I told him that my daddy used to work out at one of the oil refineries in Southeast Texas. A lot of they were making gumbo and red beans and rice, stuff like that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And those Cajun dudes out there would put a dollop of potato salad in their gumbo. Now, that's probably not traditional.
Probably not.
Probably, if I had to hazard a guess, I'd say it's not traditional. But my thing is, if you enjoy it, if that's what you like, man, then do it that way. But I was going to ask you, having spent so much time growing up and then working in the early parts of your life in New Orleans, is there any place here in the upstate?
No.
I didn't think so.
Not at all. Not even close.
Right.
Not even close.
To get any type of legitimate Cajun food. Yeah.
Nuh-uh.
I didn't think so. I was hoping you had. Not
even the ones that call themselves Cajun.
Yes, exactly. I've looked at them. I'm like, nah.
Nah. Right.
I was hoping you had a little nugget for me tucked away somewhere.
I wish I did.
I would really enjoy that. Fried boudin balls.
Right.
One of my favorite ways is just boudin links that have been smoked. So.
Oh yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
In your personal cooking life, just for yourself at home or family or whatever, do you still make Creole or Cajun inspired?
Yeah, sometimes.
It's what's your what's in your wheelhouse? So for you, what would you like to make? Where's your preferences?
What would I like to make?
If you're just cooking for yourself, of all the genres of things that you could make, what's your preference?
Golly.
Or it's just kind of I like it all.
Yeah. I mean, I love a good cheeseburger.
Come on.
No, seriously, my Julian Louie and I, we go in every year. We buy a cow with about 5 or 6 other people. And so we got that delivery 2 weeks ago. So my freezer's full of locally raised meat, right? And the ground beef makes incredible cheeseburgers. So now if I'm going to go all out, maybe I'll bake the roll, the burger roll.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll make the fries.
Homemade fries are.
Homemade fries. Oh yeah. I can't eat frozen fries.
No, they're terrible.
They are.
They're no good. Bake your own fries. Leave the skin on if you want. Mama used to always just fry them up in a cast iron.
Yeah, it's not hard to do either. Yeah. It's a little, you got to be committed, right? And but the ideal thing to do is blanch those fries in low temp oil, 250 degree oil for 6 or 7 minutes. Pull them out, set it aside, and then crank your oil up when you're ready. Everybody's got to be in their place, Burgers got to be on the grill. And then you drop those potatoes back into that hot oil, 350 degree oil, for about a minute.
Yeah.
Lift them out.
Very good.
Salt them. Good to go.
So the blanching purpose is we're going to cook the potato, and the second is we're going to crisp.
Exactly.
The outside.
Yep.
And then they come out, you hit them with your fresh salt or seasoned salt or whatever that you want to do.
Yeah.
Fries.
Yep.
And then you're ready to rock and roll.
Yep. And there's a handful of places in town that still make legit French fries.
You meaning with that process? When you say
GB&D
legit, you mean
of course Five Guys,
right?
Their fries are.
I like Five Guys.
I do too, but I know, and their fries are better than their burgers, I think.
Really?
But Five Guys, GB&D.
I haven't been there
yet. Yeah. Who else? Woodside Bistro. There's a couple other places.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you wind up in Charleston at chef at Mills House Hotel, but you said that place is the most haunted hotel in Charleston. Mills House Hotel, right?
Most haunted hotel? But yeah, probably. So we used to have people would check in.
What's the backstory on that?
Well, that hotel, the building itself predates the Civil War.
Okay.
Now, at some point, it burned down, and the original walls stood, but that building itself. So I don't know if that counts or not, but that hotel predates the Civil War. It's that old.
Wow.
So we had 2 ghosts, and if you go on Google and just Mills House Hotel ghost, you'll get like tens of thousands of of hits. I mean, legit. So that was my last job in Charleston, and I loved working there because, I mean, first off, we loved Charleston, and then my wife had an opportunity to move up here, and we took it. But Charleston was great. It was so romantic. I mean, a lot of parts of it reminded me of New Orleans, but everything in Charleston worked, right? The nuts and bolts of the city worked. Not so in New Orleans. I mean, in New Orleans, it was nothing for, the garbage didn't get picked up, or the mail didn't come, or, the police, they didn't show, or the symphony would go on strike. All this, I mean, it was so dysfunctional. New Orleans is great. I mean, it's great. We go back. My sister still lives there. And we love it. We love visiting.
It's a great place to visit.
Could not live there.
No.
Because it's so dysfunctional, right? Charleston, on the other hand, when we got there, I can remember going to whatever, we had to go to a city office to do some sort of business, and they were incredibly helpful, and just everything clicked in Charleston. And the city was so clean, and it was so beautiful, right? And we loved living there. And that was my last job. I was first chef at Wild Dunes after Hugo. So I reopened Wild Dunes after Hugo, and I was there about a year. And then after that, I went to the Mills House, and the exec soup position, it didn't pay well, but the executive chef told me, I'm leaving here in 4 months. I'm going to go live in the Caribbean, because we were managed by Holiday Inn, right? So there was a lot of opportunities with other Holiday Inn properties. And this guy told me, he's probably dead now, Mark Gibson was his name. So he said, he swore up and down that he was going to be moving in 4 to 5 months, and you've got 4 months to understand how all this functions, and you'll be executive chef. Don't you know, 15 years later, that drunk was still, he was still executive chef there. I guess he was good at hiring sous chefs.
Yeah, sounds like it. Just curious, did you, in this supposedly haunted hotel, and I know you said you can Google and see all kinds of stuff.
You're going to get hate mail for that.
Huh?
You're going to get hate mail for that.
Probably. I don't know. Did you ever experience any strange goings on?
No, I did not. We did have a first aid kit that was meant for any housekeeper that came across a ghost, and I got to use it 6 months later. Huh. And I was so excited too. When I got home, I couldn't wait to tell Amy. I was like, "Guess what I got to do?"
Got to use the ghost first aid kit.
Right, exactly. So I was there about a month, and the F&B and the sous chef, I can't remember his name, big muscular. Golly, this guy was so muscular. He comes to me and he says, "Hey, chef, got to show you something." And the F&B director was there as well. And so we go into the employee break room, and he gives me a key for a locker. We had dozens of lockers in the employee break room, and he opens it up. And right before he opens the door, he says, "This is the locker that holds the first aid kit in case any housekeeper sees the ghost." And I was like, "Whoa, seriously?" I mean, ghosts in Charleston, it was not a surprise.
Sure.
Right? But inside there, we had a Bible, we had a couple shots. It was little mini bottles of whiskey. We had a little oxygen tank with a mask. We had a rosary, and we had smelling salts.
Wow. I was going to say, there's got to be, it's not your typical first aid kit.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's amusing, and that is great.
So the key, it had a marker on it Can't remember, it was like red or something like that. So I put it on my keychain, and I told my wife when I got home, I was like, "Oh, this is so cool, right?" But we would routinely have people check in and say, "What room does the ghost visit?" Right? I mean, it was not uncommon, right? But the ghost had, I mean, we had two. There was a riverboat gambler that had been shot in a card game, and then there was a young lady. I think the young lady spent most of her time on the first floor. And so typically, drunk tourists at night would see the little girl, right? But occasionally this other guy would wander the halls in the middle of the day because, in a hotel, got to check out at 11, check in at 4, and in that 5-hour period, that's when the housekeepers are doing their work. And so I learned the story in the executive team meeting the next day, but it was like a Sunday. We were cleaning up. We did Sunday brunch, did a big buffet every Sunday. So that thing ended at 2, and so it's probably 1:30ish. So it's winding down, and we're cleaning up, and somebody comes into the kitchen and hollers, "Chef, get in here!" And I'm like, "What? What's that?" So I go running, right, and I go into the employee break room, and there's 3 housekeepers in there. One of them is like, she's not passed out, but she's obviously fainted, she's fallen or something like that. And they're like, get the thing, I was like, "Oh, that's that thing," right? And so I go, and I'm fumbling. I'm like, "Oh, it's this key." And so I open it up, and so her 2 teammates, they turn it to Psalm 37, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow. 23, thank you, Psalm 23. And she puts her hand on the Bible, and they're reading to her, and she knocks back one of those whiskeys, right? And we get her on the oxygen tank, and she's breathing so deep, right? And she takes the mask off. She goes, "Lord Almighty, I'm quitting this job." Wow. So the next day in the executive team meeting, they said that the 2 of them were working, so that our housekeepers, they worked as a team. There'd be 2 in a team, and they have that big cart where they've got all the stuff on it. And this guy comes walking down the hallway, and he tips his hat to her and says, "Good afternoon, madam," and then he just evaporates. Wow. And she she passed out and fell backwards and hit her head, and they brought her, so they got her downstairs. So anyway, and I got that night, I got home, I was like, told my wife, it's like, "Guess what I got to do? Holy cow, it was amazing."
A little bit more of a technical question here
yes.
for myself. I think I know a little bit, but for somebody listening to the podcast that doesn't know what a sous chef is.
Sure.
Yeah, just go ahead and clue us in and give us the order of the kitchen in a restaurant. Like, you've got bottom tier, and then it is all the way up to the guy that's the actual head chef.
Yeah, you got to watch Ratatouille.
Yeah.
Right? So in a big kitchen, you're going to have a brigade system, right? Much like in the military. And there'll be levels of areas of responsibility, and each one of them has its own French name. So I've been a poissonnier, I've been a saucier. Sous is it means under, right? So sous chef would be under the chef. Everybody's under the chef,
right?
So you would have maybe an AM sous chef and a PM sous chef, and then an executive sous who. In a big kitchen, an executive chef is going to maybe not spend so much time cooking, but he's going to handle all the administrative stuff.
He's the general.
Exactly, the general. And me as executive sous chef, I kind of ran the kitchen, the cooking side of everything, and made sure that his edicts and whatnot were passed down, and kept up with all the banquets and the special dinners and the birthdays and all that good stuff.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. And then you said the saucier, that's obviously the guy in charge of sauces, I would assume.
Poissonnier is fish.
Okay. Yep. That was my next question. Yeah. I didn't know what that word meant.
Yeah. And worked at a couple restaurants in New Orleans where we had a brigade system. The Tour Eiffel did, and the Young Hotel, and then in Charleston at the Mills House. We had I'll bet we had 30 cooks, because hotels 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And we did, starting at 6 a.m. Yeah. 6 a.m. going to 10 p.m. And then we did room service up till midnight.
Okay.
So you need a lot of hands, a lot of labor to make all those, keep all those nuts and bolts tight.
Right. So you've got, it should be obvious by now to anybody listening to this podcast that you've got quite the culinary background in kitchens, also got public appearances, lots of food and wine festivals from Charleston all the way to Los Angeles, appearances and doing fun stuff on Food Network, running around one night with Anthony Bourdain, which you mentioned.
I got hammered. I got absolutely blitzed with Tony Bourdain.
To prove it.
I do.
So tell me something, do you enjoy the food wine festivals, and what were you doing for those? Like, what was your role in them?
So we got to a point, I guess my wife and I got to a point where we were B-list celebrity chefs with 33 Liberty. And so maybe our favorite was the Kaleidoscope, which is the food and wine festival in Beaufort, down on our coast. So they would, a food and wine festival would reach out. So like Euphoria, like our own Euphoria. So they would reach out to us and they would ask us to come down and either do a dinner and typically a dinner and a demonstration, right? So the dinner is going to be private affair. Maybe there's going to be 20, 30, 40 people there, and you would do a course or two with other chefs. The demonstration might be 100 people, and you would do something fun, something that fit within your voice, and but in return for that, they would typically cover food, travel expenses, and take care of you while you were there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we did we did one in Memphis. We did one in LA for Barbara Fairchild, who was editor of Bon Appetit magazine. We did Charlotte Shout. We did something I think I did a cooking class in New Orleans. Wasn't a food wine festival. Probably our favorite though was Beaufort.
Yeah. What'd you do on the Food Network?
Food Network. So I was there in the early days. I made 12 appearances, and I tried really hard to get on there. Right.
This is gonna be tough.
And this was probably let's see, when was my first appearance? Would have been 99. So maybe Food Network came around in 96, 95, 96. And I tried really hard to get on there. I did tapes and I sent in letters and all this stuff. And then in 1999, I was invited to San Francisco to this fancy grocery store called Draeger's. And they asked me if I would do a cooking class there. And so Draeger's had constantly having guest chefs there. And they sent me this beautiful letter. At the time I was chef of the Augusta Grill. And I was like, wow, that is really cool. So they wanted a headshot, right? And good friend of mine, good customer of the restaurant, a guy named George Lee, was a professional photographer, professional marketer, worked for all the big agencies in town. And I asked him, and so he came into the restaurant early one morning on a Saturday morning when we didn't serve lunch on Saturdays. So we did some photo shoots, and I had seen a photograph of, probably in a fishing magazine, of a guy holding a fish, and it was a trout, right? Big trout. And he was face to face with that trout. Trout had its mouth open, and he had his mouth open, and it was probably inside the Outdoors magazine or fishing magazine. I was like, that's really clever. So we got a delivery of salmon that day, and I had this 10-pound salmon, and I opened up his mouth, and it was pretty fresh, and so the eyes were nice and clear. And so I'm face to face with the salmon, and I've got my mouth open and my eyes wide open. So that's the headshot I sent to Draeger's in San Francisco. And lo and behold, this guy named Matt Stillman, who was he was their talent scout. He got the Draeger's catalog and he's flipping through there. And he was like, holy cow, who's this guy? And a couple of days later, I get a phone call at the Augusta Grill. The guy says, Chef Malik, this is Matthew Stillman at the Food Network in New York. Hey, I'd like to have you up here to do some shows. And I was like, yeah, whatever, dude. And I hung the phone up. And he calls back 5 minutes later. He goes, Chef, don't hang up on me again.
Man.
And I looked at the phone, and the number had a 212 area code. I was like, oh, shit, that's New York.
Wow. That's awesome.
And about a month later, flying to New York to do, so I did Ready, Set, Cook, which was like I guess they have a show now called Chopped. So it was really similar to Chopped with a studio audience.
Right.
I did a show called Door Knock Dinners, where we did that. We filmed that in Sullivan's Island, where we knocked on some lady's door in the middle of the day and said, can I come cook dinner?
She kind of worked whatever she happened to have in her house, or did y'all shop and bring stuff?
Well, there was a process to that. So the scout, the location guy, gave me some tips. He said, first of all, you want to see toys in the yard. That means they have kids. If they have kids, that means they have food in the house, right? And you want to see a decent car, because if they have a decent car, that means they probably have real food in the house, right? Not pretend food wrapped in Mylar. And then if you see a nice clean minivan with toys, with a clean house, that's what you want.
Yeah. So
they scoped out this house, and they knew it was a mom and dad, and they had 3 kids, and they knew roughly what time dad got home. And so that's the door we knocked on.
Wow.
Yep. And she didn't, and there was like, when we did that, so back at this time, so this is summer of 99 or fall of 99. There's probably 8 people, right? Because there's 2 camera guys, there's 2 sound guys, there's lighting guys, there's a boom mic hanging over my head, and the host was this guy named Gordon Elliott, right? This producer. And so he knocks on the door, and so she opens a door, she looks through the peephole, and she sees 9 people, 10 people at her door, cameras and all this stuff, right? And so she opens the door. She's got the chain on the door. She opens it just enough, right? And so Gordon, he's got this big microphone about the size of this, and there's a boom mic hanging over our heads, and he's introducing himself, and he's saying, oh, I'm on Food Network. We'd like to film this, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, go away. Right? So I'm there in my chef coat, and she's like, what? Who are you? And so he turns to me and he goes, I've got Chef John Malik from the Augusta Grill in Greenville, South Carolina. And she goes, oh, I've been to that restaurant before.
Get out. Come on.
She was all ready to call the police. She looks at me and she goes, now the door opens and she goes, Augusta Grill with the crab cakes. And I said, yes, ma'am. And she goes, okay, come on in.
Well, that's insane.
And I poked Gordon Elliott. And he was Australian, right? And he's tall. He's like 6'3" and big, broad shoulders. And he's like, oh, thanks, mate. I didn't think we were going to get in. So I did that show. I did Sarah Moulton show, which was called Sarah Moulton Cooking Live Primetime. That was on live. I did that 4 times. And then I did a show called Food Fantasy, where I got to live out my food fantasy. Okay. And I cooked for Chip Ganassi's IndyCar team in Chicago, because my favorite racing driver at the time was a guy named Jimmy Vasser. So Jimmy Vasser was the 1996 IndyCar champion, right? California guy, really professional and smooth and cool, right? But just a brilliant race car driver. And so, yeah, they flew us to Chicago, and we spent the weekend at the up close and personal, hanging out.
That's just, you've got such a colorful background in the things that you've been able to do. That's awesome.
That was the coolest thing I ever did. I'll tell you what, here's the best advice that I've ever been given. And I'll tell this to every young chef that I've mentored, every young cook, right? Is when I was at the Mills House Hotel, the general manager was this wonderful gentleman named John Edwards, right? Now I'm probably 28 at the time or whatever. So this is 1993. Bill and Hillary have been in office a few months, and the food magazines, the story comes out that they want an American chef at the White House because there's never been an American chef in the White House, right? As long as there's been chefs, they've either been Swiss or French. And I was like, wow. So I'm reading about it in all the food magazines. And so I told Chef Gibson, the executive chef, I said, I'm going to apply for the job. And he's like, you idiot, you're not, you blah, 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 you did, blah, 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 right? But I told Mr. Edwards, we were going up in the freight elevator, and I said, Mr. Edwards, and I told him what was going to happen. And he says, you know what, John? Or chef, he called me chef. He goes, you know what, chef? If you never ask the question, the answer is always no. So you go right ahead. You apply. And if they call me, I'm going to say Chef Malik would be a great choice. Now, at the time, I was no more qualified to be the janitor at the White House, much less the executive chef, right? Yeah. Not at all qualified. But Mr. Edwards gave me that boost of confidence, And what a great thing. What a great thing to remember. If you never ask that question, the answer is always no.
100%.
So I just, there's Food Network, and I'm like, how can I get on, right? How can I write for the Huffington Post? Well, just sitting on the couch wishing, it's like my dad said a couple of times, weren't you wishing your one hand and crap in the other and see which one fills up faster?
Yeah. My mom used to say that, except she said spit.
Yeah, exactly.
Wish one hand, spit in the other, see which one fills up first.
Exactly.
Yeah, you just got to go for it. You
got to go.
Or there's so many different ways of saying the same thing. One of the ones I like to think of was Wayne Gretzky. You miss 100% of the shots.
You never take. If you never take that shot.
You got to go for it.
Exactly.
You got to pull the trigger.
Exactly.
So.
I tell you, from that White House, I got this, and I told my guys at my brigade at the Mills House, and they were certain we were all going to D.C., right? So anyway, I got this beautiful rejection letter from the White House, and it was almost as if it was written specifically for me. Signed by the chief usher, a guy named Gary J. Walters, and beautiful stationery. And here's the thing, it wasn't folded. It came in a full-size envelope. So that piece of paper wasn't compromised by being folded over into thirds. And it was so beautifully composed, right? And signed. And he said, thank you for your desire to serve your country through your culinary skills, right? And I read that letter 3 or 4 times, and I was like, wow. And I knew probably wasn't going to get the job. I mean, I had more confidence than I had skill. But now that letter hangs in my office at home to remind me every day that if you don't ask that question, the answer is always no. But sometimes that no comes with a lesson in itself.
Yeah, a lot of motivation there.
Exactly. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I've got more questions, but you're answering them and then some.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take just a second and ask you, listener, a question. Wouldn't you like to elevate your special moment with the cigar box? Since you're craving premium cigars for your next function, let me bring the luxurious cigar experience to you. Whether it's a celebratory gathering, a relaxing backyard barbecue with your neighborhood, or a corporate event, the Cigar Box offers a curated selection of the finest cigars brought directly to your location in a custom-built teardrop-style cigar trailer, showcasing 100 individually displayed cigars in a classy cedar-built rolling humidor. Feast your eyes on our curated selection featuring top and boutique brands. Enjoy personalized recommendations and expert advice. You can get me directly at 864-207-2316 or visit mobileCigarBox.com to learn more and fill out the booking inquiry form while you're there. And I will be back with you as soon as possible.
Or you could just ask Siri, Alexa, or Google, hey, call the cigar box.
Yeah, you could do that. you could ask them. I told you before we started that I was not a wine drinker.
Okay.
But I'm going to give it a whirl while I've got you here.
Okay.
I'm going to try it with this beefy cigar. So
yeah,
give me a little shot of that, and we'll see what happens. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Now, what is this again?
It's a blend, but it's primarily Grenache.
What is that?
It's a grape. Grenache is a grape.
Okay.
So you typically find that in Spain. It's quite a popular grape in Spanish wines, or in Rhone-style wines from France.
Mm-hmm.
So a Côte de Rhone is kind of like French table wine. So Côte is slope, so slope of the Rhone River. So a Côte de Rhone is typically what we refer to as a GSM, Grenache, Syrah, Mourvèdre. It's going to be the basic, the building blocks, the primary grapes, right?
Okay.
And so Grenache. So what do you smell?
Well, I smell grapes.
Okay. What else?
Let me see. What else? What else can I get out of here?
Smell maybe some white pepper, some plum.
Plum.
Some maybe something minerally. I smell a little leather, right?
My nose is not that defined.
It's fairly dry.
It is dry.
Mm-hmm.
It is leathery.
It's got a lovely kind of meaty aroma to it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I wanted to try something different while I got you here, while I'm smoking this heavier cigar, and I know you picked out a red wine.
Yeah.
So I think it stands up to this cigar.
Yeah. Yeah. They complement each other nicely.
Yeah. So I know you're involved in other aspects of the food industry these days, which we will get into in a little bit, but with all you've done, and one of those things being the first chef in Greenville with a James Beard nomination, do you miss cooking in the commercial kitchen?
Of course. Every day.
Yeah?
Yep.
So what was the driving factor to get out of officially being a chef to move on to do other things, even though you're still involved in that industry?
Well, for one, it's physically challenging, right?
It's a very demanding job.
Very demanding, right? So we closed our restaurant at the end of 2008. We did not survive the financial meltdown, right? I mean, we struggled for 6 months.
That's the Augusta Grill?
Yes, sir. That was 33 Liberty.
Oh, 33 Liberty, okay.
Opened 33 Liberty in 2000, and we had like 5 great years, right? And then probably the third year we were open, we started getting some good press. And at the time, pre-internet days, like Gourmet Magazine would publish requests for recipes, right? And so what I did was I had postcards, and when somebody would say, they were already addressed to Gourmet Magazine, when somebody would say, oh, Chef Malik, that thing you made, that soup or that thing or whatever, would you share the recipe? And I would say, well, maybe. So I'd give them the postcard addressed to Gourmet Magazine, and they had to fill it out and say, could you request such and such recipe from John Malik at 33 Liberty in Greenville, South Carolina? And so then we started to get a few phone calls. And so what I would do with the magazines was I would find somebody on the masthead, and I would send them menus, right? Mail menus out, and sometimes I'd put, like a fresh bay leaf or a sprig of thyme or something like that something to make them stop and go, oh, isn't this clever, right? So I did stuff like that. And then I started getting some requests for recipes, and one thing led to another. And golly, what big magazine were we in first? I think it's probably Bon Appetit. So my wife was the pastry chef at the time, and boy, they asked for a recipe for something, and I think it was like this white chocolate banana tart that had caramelized bananas on top of it, and a dark chocolate sauce and a chocolate crumb base with a white chocolate mousse. Right?
Sounds awful.
So they asked for the recipe. I think this is the first time that we were in a big magazine, and so they called my wife and said, "We would like to feature you. We would like you to do 6 different recipes." And then at some point, they did I think it was Food and Wine, did a story about cheesecakes. And my wife had a cheesecake recipe in there. So I've got that. That's framed at our house, right? And there was only like 4 or 5 cheesecake recipes, right? And so her cheesecake, she made it more like a souffle, where she would whip the egg whites and fold it into the batter and then bake it in a bain-marie, which is a water bath, right? And it was just like, oh my gosh, that was so fluffy and light, and because cheesecake,
it's kind of
especially,
is that kind of like the Basque style?
No, Basque style would be dense. A Basque cheesecake is very dense.
Okay,
right.
So this was more light and airy.
So like a New York style cheesecake is, it's full of ricotta, right? So typical cheesecake,
you're beating the egg whites and folding it in,
right? Exactly,
very fluffy and airy,
right. And that cheesecake, it would wiggle on its path to the table, and people would put a fork into it and they go, oh my God, this is not cheesecake. What is this? So, so she had a cheesecake piece in Food and Wine, and then Bon Appetit did a story about her and had taught all these recipes in there. And then what was funny was like, now, we were very much white tablecloth, very sophisticated food. We called our food Global Comfort with Southern Hospitality, changed our menu every week, right? So one day Bon Appetit calls me and they ask they say, we're getting all these requests about smoke this and smoke that, because I did all this smoking, smoked tomatoes, garlic, salt, whatever, and I'd put smoked salt on the table for a steak, And so in July of 2000, or 2001, they did a story. They did this big piece called "Who's Who in American Barbecue," and so I'm in there, right? And maybe it was like 2003, because I'd smoked duck breast or cheese or whatever. We made a smoked tomato soup with creme fraiche, and that people would freak out over, right? So I started experimenting with all these different woods and peach and pecan and that sort of thing, right? And so anyway, here's this story comes out. Who's Who in American Barbecue? John Malik, 33 Liberty, Greenville, South Carolina. A week later, I get all these guys walking in, and they would open the door and they would look around and go, well, this is not a barbecue restaurant. And I was like, wow. I had to explain to so many people that what we do, it's not, yes, we're barbecuing, but we're really smoking, right? So right. I'm it's more experimental with smoke and not necessarily smoking Boston butts
sure.
over post oak, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were in.
Kind of led to a lot of
exactly.
Print magazines.
Southern Living did a big spread on us. Yeah, Southern Living came and the photographer and writer hung out with us on a Saturday. The photographer went with me to the farmers market, which back then was on Rutherford Road, right? took a bunch of pictures, and we were on some radio shows, and we were on this NPR show called Making It Grow with Libby Hoyle, who was Clemson. She ran Clemson's food science division. And she came to the restaurant. It was during peach season. She wanted to do something about peaches. And somebody in the state said, oh, you should go to 33 Liberty because that girl over there, she does all these cool peach desserts. So I had a speed rack with peaches that were maturing, right? This peach is not going to ripen. Once it comes off the tree, it's not going to ripen. It will soften, but it's not going to It's not going to get better. So I had like 5 or 6 different varieties of peach, and Libby Hoyle's over there, and she says, "Tell me about these peaches." And I was able to name every peach that I had. So I was like that much of a peach nerd at the time. I mean, that was like 25 years ago. Couldn't do that today. Sure. But just by their look, and the time of year, I could tell you, well, this is a June Prince, or this is Big Red, or this is Georgia. What's the Georgia peach? I can't remember the white peach. There's 3 of them.
Idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah. So
yeah,
that's how much of a nerd I was.
So right now we're talking about John Malik, the chef and individual. In a little bit, we'll switch topics, but I want to touch on just a few personal passions of
Sure.
yours. One of which is you're concerned, and I don't know if concerned is the right word. Maybe you can clean it up for me, but just kind of concerned about the demise of cursive in the current age that we live in, is social media and just in front of a screen, and what's the concern?
So that cursive is something that I learned in elementary school. We all learned. If you're my age, you learned cursive.
I learned it.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. You're not even my age.
No.
So, so now I don't believe it's taught in many public schools anymore. Or
I don't even think they're teaching it to my kids in Walhalla.
Yeah. So the thing about cursive, and I only learned this about 10 years ago, the thing about cursive is that it forces your brain to think ahead, right? Because you're constantly planning, as you're writing, you're constantly planning those next few letters. And the thing about cursive is one word, the pen or pencil should not come off the paper.
It never does. They're all connected.
Exactly. They're all connected. So it really engages your brain, and it forces your brain to think and to plan. And it's really great for young minds. So when kids are little, when they're 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, their brains are ripe for learning, right? And you just don't learn when you're sitting in front of a screen.
No.
You don't.
You don't. You're consuming.
Exactly.
But you're not learning.
Exactly.
Yeah. I've never even considered that.
Yeah.
That until you started talking about it, I could see where you were going, that it's just, when you're doing print, it's easy to correct a mistake.
Sure.
When print. But with cursive, you can't do it.
Yep.
It's all just one fluid motion, and you're exactly right. You're not cognizant, but subconsciously you're thinking ahead.
Yeah.
Because you've got to form all of this right. No, that's awesome.
Right.
And we live in that society where people are just glued to whatever's happening on social media, or a 30-second soundbite on the news.
I know. I hate that too. And I'm no better than the next guy or gal. I get on Instagram. Oh, let me see what's going on Instagram. And then 45 minutes has gone by. It's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Makes you feel sick.
Yeah. Well, and I'm with you. I'm really concerned, and it runs together. But I'm really concerned about the generations behind me about grammar. Like,
throw it out the window.
They can't spell.
Nope.
And they can't form a cohesive sentence.
Nope.
They can't properly use punctuation. Like, we're in bad shape. Like, what are people doing without, spell check? You're
right.
in trouble.
Or Grammarly.
Right.
Yeah.
Grammarly, I used to write a lot more with pen and paper than I do now. When I was a pastor, I'd write notes to the people in the church on a regular basis. Part of my weekly goals to write X amount of notes to my church family. And getting a handwritten note from somebody, it means a lot. It means
Sure.
much more than getting a text message or
Yep.
an email.
Yep.
Because it's very intentional. This person sat down with a pen, with a paper at a desk. I had to take some time. I mean, you can hammer out an email in 30 seconds.
Sure.
But
We get them all the time. We get hundreds a day. Yeah.
So I'm 100% with you on that
Yep.
kind of stuff, man.
Good.
I think
I'm going to send you a thank you letter.
you don't have to, but thank you. And part of that is, I mean, you love really good writing. You've obviously been featured in a lot of magazines, but you write a regular column for a Greenville Journal called City Juice.
Yep.
So what's that column all about?
It's food and beverage scene in Greenville, sometimes beyond Greenville, but because it's the Journal wants me to, to stick to the Greenville metro area. And I've been doing that. It's going on 3 years now.
Okay. So, obviously you've been here in Greenville since, what'd you say, 94? Was that right?
Yeah, 94.
Right.
Yeah.
So 94, for 30 years, you've seen a lot of change in the city of Greenville, in all manner of ways. But what is your opinion? How far has Greenville come from a culinary aspect?
Oh, night and day. I mean, my gosh, when we got here, such a meat and potatoes town, right? I mean, there was Nello's restaurant, Prudhomme, downtown, and Seven Oaks. I suppose that was the only two places. The other two places where you can get a fine meal were private clubs, Poinsett Club and the City Club, or Commerce Club, the Commerce Club. But yeah, that was it. And yeah, it was meat and potatoes. I mean, everybody raved about Charlie's Steakhouse. God, that food was awful. I mean, God bless him, he was open for 60 years or whatever, but it was, yeah.
Yeah. I really like JP at Bergamo. I know him. I like the restaurant.
Yeah, the new owner?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. I met him.
I have not met him.
No, I used to work, the way I met JP, I used to work at Revival Butchery in the West.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay, for Jeremy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, and so that's where I met Dan Eastland.
Yeah.
Coming on. I met him there.
I'm sure I've hollered at you a few times.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I just didn't know it.
Yeah.
I met JP there.
Mm-hmm.
I've eaten at the restaurant several times. I'm trying to get him on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be a wild ride. That guy is out. That dude's a. It'll be an interesting episode. That's where I met and made very good friends with my friend Jason Jansen of Broadwater Shrimp.
Love that guy.
Yeah, he loved Jason Jansen. That's where I met Craig Coons.
Yep.
Working at
same here. Love Craig.
I've met just a lot of interesting people there in my time working in the butcher shop. Learned a lot, of course, about just breaking animals down, making sausage, all of that fun stuff. And so. Obviously, in 30 years, the culinary scene in Greenville has exploded,
sure,
for lack of a better word. What, in a much shorter time span, because you've been writing City Juice for about 3 years, you said, what have you seen improved, or what have you seen change in the last 3 years that you started your column?
Last 3 years?
Maybe a little bit of a harder question.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, where do you see it's headed in the potential?
That's always a tricky question because there's, and I've seen other writers saying, oh, Greenville this and Greenville that. Well, the thing is, there's 500,000 people in the county, right? We all have different needs, tastes, wants, desires. My my favorite restaurant you might not care for. Whatever, that's fine, you know. Um, I will say that when I was in culinary school way back when, all of my classmates, we all wanted to have the same thing. We all wanted to have a fine dining restaurant, white tablecloth, fancy wine list, beautiful wine glasses,
Right.
waiters in tuxedos. Nobody wants that anymore, right? Or maybe if you do want it, you're not going to open that kind of restaurant.
Not here.
Because it would be so expensive, right? And when you do something like that, a restaurant, it's a lot of money up front, and then now you got to pay down that debt, and so you've got to have a big audience, right?
I was going to say there's only certain locations that can sustain that. New York City, San Francisco, Chicago.
Exactly. So right now we have how many luxurious restaurants do we have in town? Scoundrel.
I haven't been there yet.
And where else? I mean, where else are you going to get like the 4-star treatment? Urban Wren has closed up, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Is that the only other place, I mean, I love Sobeys. I worked for Carl for about a year. Sobeys is a wonderful restaurant. You get excellent service. It's so much fun. The food is great. But a lot of it is shrimp and grits and fried chicken and, steaks. So, but
not things you would find in a high-end fine dining
exactly
restaurant.
Exactly. So, yeah. So now, if you want to open a restaurant now, so now that's what a lot of what I do is I'm a hospitality consultant or a restaurant coach. Now I'm working with a young chef, and he's gonna, when he gets his brick and mortar spot open, he's gonna light it up, right? But it's gonna be small plates. It's gonna be $15, $20 small plates. It's gonna be casual service, right? It's gonna be he'll probably have, maybe kiosk style ordering where you go up to a menu board, and say, well, I'll have one of those and one of those. And, a place like White Duck Taco where you walk in and you're looking at a big board, a big menu, and you order right there, and then they bring the food to you. And, that's where food is right now. And that's fine. It's, so our desire for what makes a great meal, that's constantly in flux, right? What our parents ate out at in the 50s or 60s, what would that feel like today? It'd feel pretty clunky and out of place,
Definitely.
Yeah. So I think today, where food is going is going to be more specialized, with places like Gather, where we've got like 10 choices, these little, 40-foot or 20-foot containers where they're doing like, maybe 3 or 4 different items. One of my favorite places in town is Harry's Hoagies. They do amazing sandwiches.
I think I've been there. So good.
Right?
Love a good hoagie.
Yeah.
So you're a restaurant coach and hospitality consultant. So on the I guess on the restaurant coach side, that's much more mechanical as far as probably diving into the numbers, right? On what, like, people, I think it depends on where you eat, and everybody's experience is a little bit different. But when people walk away from a restaurant feeling overcharged for what they get, that may be legitimate in your own mind, but I don't think they realize that restaurant margins are really thin. I'm presuming they are, and they make money on volume. So what's the numbers, generally speaking, like on that margin that they're operating on? Because they're trying to squeeze, like, I've got to pay my rent, I can't be too expensive, and I still need to make a profit.
Sure.
So it doesn't leave a whole lot.
Right. So tough question because if you wanted, let's go back to that luxurious restaurant like Scoundrel, right? I mean, how many restaurants like that could Greenville support? I mean, not that many. And I love Scoundrel. So 33 Liberty was Joe Cash. Joe Cash is the chef owner of Scoundrel. We were the first restaurant where he worked in the kitchen. I hired him when he was like 19, right? But how many restaurants like that could Greenville support? Because it's luxurious, and that luxury comes with a price tag, right? But how many Rocky's Hot Chickens can Greenville support?
Right.
A lot, right? So if somebody came to me and said, hey, chef, I want you to help me open a luxurious restaurant, right? So we would know exactly who our competition is, and we would have a really good idea of where we would have to put this restaurant. So you got to put it where the money is, right? So there's not a whole lot of places. You put it on Pelham Road by the interstate near Michelin. Put it downtown, Main Street, maybe, somewhere in there. Or, golly, where else?
Yeah, you're very limited options.
But yeah, a place where you're going to spend, $200 on dinner for two, right? Now, if you say, I want to open up a Rocky's Hot Chicken, something like that. I want to open up a fried chicken sandwich restaurant. We got plenty of opportunity.
Sure.
We could put that on Haywood, Pleasantburg. We could put it out here, put it in Berea, whatever, Yeah. Because a $10 meal, $12 meal, you're going to have a lot of a very big audience for that.
Sure. There's been times, just doing my cigar business and leave Greenville, head this way to Easley. There's not a single cigar lounge once you leave Greenville this way at all, anywhere. Not in Powdersville, not in Easley, not in Pickens, not in Clemson, not in Seneca. So I thought, man, I'd really love to open one. And originally I was like, man, I want to open something really swanky, really like Club Macanudo, New York. But immediately I just had that thought.
I would talk you out of that.
I don't think Greenville can sustain that. They can't. Not yet.
Yeah. But that's no slight against our town.
Absolutely not.
Right?
It's just about what can the local market handle.
Sure. Yeah.
That's really
if you want to sell Rolls Royces, you can't do that uneasily.
Mm-hmm.
You got to go to Miami Beach or something like that. You got to go where the market is.
Yeah. I'm curious, with all of your experience, if you've been able to pick up on whether or not a chef-owned restaurant has been more or less successful than a restaurant owner who's hired an executive chef. I don't even know if that's a legit question.
Yeah, that's a good question. Don't know the answer to that right off the hand. But
when you're the executive chef, and again,
right, because you have the reputation. The chef builds up the reputation.
I'm making a lot of presumptions here because this is not my industry. It's not what I do or what I know. But if you're the executive, if you're, let's just say I'm the restaurant owner and I hire John Malik to be my executive chef, then you are responsible, obviously, for the kitchen and the creation of menus and whatever else all that entails. But then, the restaurant at large and everything else that goes into that, whether it's the bar and it's the ambiance and it's the outdoor patio section and it's, are we taking private parties? Do we have a catering arm? Do we, there's obviously collaboration there, but when you have a restaurant that is chef owned, then the executive chef is in charge of the kitchen and then everything else. So
right.
He's
got to have some support.
Yeah,
right?
His biggest skill set, you would think, is in the kitchen side because he's a chef, but he's also the businessman doing.
Right.
So it just seems, I don't know if one's more successful than the other or not.
so when Jason Schultz was still cooking, I don't think he cooks anymore. So Jason and Julia Schultz opened Stella's Bistro in Simpsonville, Fairview Road, right? And when I had a knee injury that required pretty extensive surgery and put me out of action for almost a year. So I started doing their social media because this is probably 2013. They sucked at it, right? Their social media was terrible. And this is in the early days of Facebook. And so anyway, I got to know those two pretty well. And I spent some time in the kitchen. Jason Schultz, and so when somebody would ask me if they should get into the restaurant business, I used to say, tell you what, why don't you go work for Jason for a week for free and see what it takes to be successful? Because that guy now understand that the restaurant business, it's a game of pennies, right? You've got to be able to pinch pennies, but you can't look like you're pinching pennies. Jason was so brilliant in the kitchen. Not only was he a great chef, but he was so economical. He would take a duck breast, take a whole duck, trim off the breast, trim off the leg, and then we would scrape the carcasses and get all the meat off of the carcass, right? Now we're going to put that meat in the freezer. A month later, now we've got all this duck meat that we can turn into sausage or a stuffing or something like that, right? Then you would roast the bones and make a duck stock. Most of us, when we made a veal stock, we would get veal bones, onions, carrots, celery, tomato, roasted off in the oven. Jason, when he would trim out a New York strip or ribeye, he would take the chunks of fat, beef fat.
100%.
That's what he made his beef stock with. And he'd roast it off in the oven till it rendered down. Now he's going to pour off the beef fat, right? Now he's got this little almost crystalline structure of the fat. Now we would paint that with tomato paste. Oh my gosh. Paint it with tomato paste. Now put your mirepoix in there. Now it goes back into the oven, roast that again, and that's what he'd make a stock with.
So rich.
And I've never met anybody that made their veal stock or their beef stock with beef fat, right? Everybody else is just going to throw that fat away, or they're going to use it to maybe roast vegetables. And I know.
Flavor.
Exactly. So it takes a lot to be successful in the restaurant business, especially if you're going to have tables with wait staff and wine lists and you're going to change the menu often. You want to go farm to table. I mean, guys like Sean Kelly they are few and far between, right? Sean Kelly, chef owner of Fork and Plow. I mean, that guys like that, they've got to be good jugglers.
Yeah.
Right?
Since you've been in the business so long and you are a restaurant coach, maybe there's somebody listening to this podcast thinking about opening a restaurant or maybe a chicken shack, whatever,
sure.
What have you. What are some things that they need to be thinking about that they're probably not considering? Probably a long list.
It's probably a long list. Golly. Well, I've had to throw people out of a restaurant before.
You mean
right?
diners?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Either they were drunk, right, and maybe they pinched the waitress on the butt, right? Or they're trying to take advantage of something, right? So you've got to be, if you're going to be successful, you have to be very diplomatic, right? You have to have good food, but you have to have great service.
Right.
And so a lot of my clients have forgotten this simple lesson, is that I'm not going to come back to your restaurant because the food was good. I'm going to come back because of the way you, the owner, made me feel while I was eating your good food, right? Did you make me feel important? Because that's a restaurant owner, that's the paycheck coming in the door. Years ago, it's about 5 years ago, had a phone call, this restaurant on Pelham or Woodruff, right? Guy wanted to sit down with me, and he wasn't quite sure what was going on, but his sales were off. So I walk into the front door, and I had my son with me at the time. Walk into the front door, I'm standing at the hostess stand. It's 2:15, and the sign says we quit serving lunch at 2:30. So we walk in, we're at the hostess stand, and I'm looking around, and the bartender, who's probably 30 feet away from me, looks at me and frowns. I mean, he like frowns and shakes his head, because I assume he was like, oh, great, here's somebody coming in here for lunch at, 10 minutes before closing. Right?
You've already messed up.
No, I've been in this place 5 seconds. I already know what the problem is.
Yeah.
It reeks, right?
Yeah.
So hospitality is number one. Hospitality will always trump average food. If you have average food, but you have great service, you make people feel special. You make them feel like they made a great choice coming into your restaurant or your chicken shack or your barbecue house or your cigar shop, right? Doesn't matter where you're coming into. If it's a drugstore, a grocery store, I tell you, my wife and I live out in the country. We live in Piedmont. And so there's a Ingles grocery store nearby. It's our closest grocery store. And this grocery store is probably, it's on 25. It's probably been there for like 30 years, 40 years, whatever, been there a while. And it's always feels like the redheaded stepchild, because, place was always, always could have been cleaner, could have been well run. The staff was always mopey, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the prices were really good and it was close, so that's where I'm going to go. The other day I was in there, and I ran into 4 team members in that store. The guy stocking shelves, or the butcher, or whatever, somebody stocking the dairy. And they all engaged me. The guy putting the milk away, he's like, Chef, he said, are you finding everything you're looking for, right? And I said, yeah, all good. And I said, I hope you're having a good day. He goes, oh yeah, man, how about you? So I get to the checkout, and I was like, it's the same store that I've been going in for 10 years or whatever, right? But I get to the checkout, and the cashier, she looks at me, her name was Darlene, she looks at me and smiles, and she says, did you find everything you needed? And I said, oh yeah, Darlene, I got all this stuff, I'm good. And I asked her, I said, hey, let me ask you something. Do y'all have a new manager? And she goes, yeah, the guy's been here about 2 months. It was so obvious, right? It's the same food I've always bought. It's the same store, it's the same parking lot. But I left there thinking, wow, see what a difference one person can make. So that's what wins every time, is hospitality wins every time.
Mm-hmm. One of my old Bible college teachers used to always say, basically, you should never let your disposition damage your position.
Right.
It's just that attitude in how you treat people and how you come across. And obviously there's room for hospitality in the food industry at every level.
Sure.
Like, for instance, if I'm taking my wife out for a really special big dinner, and I'm going to spend $200, $300, $400, which for me would be a massive expense, right? I'm going to expect that. I am going to expect 2 things. Number one, the food better be good, but I better be treated well.
Sure.
By the staff, by everybody that's there. Very serious attention to detail. But you come all the way down the scale and head to Chick-fil-A, and we all know. Everybody knows.
Everybody knows.
Looking at Chick-fil-A, those people are going to smile at you. They're going to ask how you're doing. They're going to say, my pleasure. The attentiveness of their employees. So,
and you're spending $9 for a sandwich and a drink and maybe some fries.
Right. So
you get $100 worth of hospitality.
That's like why they are
number one.
Because to be honest,
it's still fast food.
I'd rather eat a chicken sandwich from Popeyes or Bojangles just for the chicken sandwich itself,
sure,
to eat the Chick-fil-A chicken. But 2 out of 5 times, 3 out of 5 times, Popeyes or Bojangles is going to mess up my order. They're not going to put the extra pickles on my sandwich that I want.
They can't look you in the eyes.
They don't really care about me. They don't care what I'm doing.
Yeah.
They're just lazy. If I go to Chick-fil-A, my order is going to be right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going, like you said, the hospitality there, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
So how do you, I don't know how do you scale that? I don't even know if that's the right word. It just seems, I mean, you can have the guy that wants to run the chicken shack, but teaches the hostess and the wait staff and whoever good hospitality, which should not be exclusive to a $300 meal.
Should not. Right?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
And that's a great point that you make. I think that hospitality will make a restaurant that serves average food more successful than a high-end restaurant
with crappy service.
Yeah.
Every time.
That's fantastic. And we should put that to work no matter what industry you're in. You're in the people industry. I mean, if you've got, if you're a company selling a product or a service or a combination of both.
Doctor's office, car dealership, doesn't matter.
Running my little cigar trailer to this event and that event. I've always said, I don't even care if you come to my cigar trailer and you don't buy anything. You don't get anything.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody that walks away from an experience with me that it was bad, that they felt like I talked down to them, or when I talked to them about cigars, they got the impression that I felt that they were stupid or anything. Not at all. That does not happen.
Right.
It can't happen because, number one, just on a human being level, just be nice to people.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really bad for business and your reputation.
Oh, yeah.
That'll just shutter the doors.
Especially today, social media, I'm getting Google, 1-star review.
Yeah.
No, Chris looked at me funny, 1 star.
Right. No.
Sure.
I want to circle back a little bit and discuss a bit more of your passion for writing.
Okay.
Do you think we're suffering from a lack of good writing? Whether that's locally or nationally, it doesn't matter.
Well, I tell you what, I'm a subscriber to Barry Weiss's Free Press. Are you familiar?
Is that her Substack?
Yep. Okay.
I mean, I'm familiar with who she is.
Yeah.
But I'm not a subscriber.
That's where I get my news, my politics, whatever. Barry Weiss was, for a long time, she was editor at the New York Times, one of the editors.
I remember the big blow up when she.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, through her, I found A.M. Hickman, and find him on Substack. This guy, and he's a professional hobo. He's hitchhiked all over the country. He's lived under overpasses, right? He's I guess you could say he's squatted, right? Yeah. His writing is, oh my gosh, it's so heart-achingly beautiful, just spectacular. And so, are we suffering from bad writing? I don't know. I still read paper books, right? Some of them are new, some of them are old.
Well, what makes beautiful writing to you? What is it about the hobo? What is it about his writing that is captivating to you?
So James Baldwin, well-known writer in the 60s and 70s. So he said, one of my favorite quotes about writing, he said that I don't understand, and I'm paraphrasing.
Sure.
I don't understand composition. I don't understand style. not so good with grammar, but the thing is, can you make them see it? And I believe I can make them see it. So that's kind of what he said, right? So when you're reading a particular writer, are you seeing what he or she is writing about? Can you see it, right? Can you envision it? One of my favorite books was about, and I don't remember the writer's name, the name of the story, but the Coast Guard's, one of the Coast Guard's most famous rescues was this freighter that was sinking off the coast of somewhere near Maine in the winter, and this helicopter pilot was able to get out there and rescue 10 or 12 guys. And
did they make a movie about that?
Oh, there was a
like
Kevin Costner movie, right? Kind of maybe about that.
Yeah. Anyway,
but in the book, I mean, you could feel that icy water, right? And you got a sense that the ship was going to sink, and these guys had to get off, and you could sense the wind, as the pilot's fighting the helicopter in this 40-mile-an-hour winds, right? And so what's this like? Or Tom Clancy's first book, Hunt for Red October. I mean, that book. I mean, you want to read a novel, right? I could not put that down. So great writing. It's can you feel it? Can you sense it? Can you smell it? Right? Can you smell the salt water? Can you feel the salt water on your face? As this guy's trying to rescue these guys off this freighter, right? So, and even if it's something like here, we're sitting outside. We're near Saluda Dam Road. It's late winter, but the grass is still brown. There's firewood that's starting to rot. There's some turkey tail mushrooms that are been there for 6 months old. There's some jonquils, some lilies that are just starting to come up, right? So can you lay
in the scene?
Yeah, can set that scene, right?
Yeah, man. I thought about doing some writing for local magazines. I've talked about it before with people and mentioned it a few times on the podcast. I don't know.
Stop thinking about it and start doing it.
I wrote a few articles just for practice. We'll see. I don't think anybody's writing locally for magazines in their like lifestyle leisure section about cigars.
Yeah.
I think I could do it. I just got to figure out.
Well, you don't know until you try.
Right. And, I, like I said, I've written a few things. I have them here on my computer. I just got to hunt down the people to send them to and say, hey, I'm just flinging this out there. Like you said.
I'll tell you. I'll give you some contacts.
Yeah, man.
I'll introduce you via email to a couple of editors.
Well, I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens. I'd be like, man, nah, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
But it's all about shooting your shot.
Yeah, taking that shot.
That we went back to.
Right.
What would you suggest to somebody that says that they want to improve their writing skills? I mean, I know you kind of covered it here, just like laying out the scene.
Yeah.
Is it a matter of read great writers or I don't know?
I don't know. I've had a few people ask over the years, and I'm not trying to say I'm a great writer. Let's just say I'm a successful writer.
Sure.
Right?
Fair enough.
And I've had a few people ask me, and golly, I have recommended a few things. First of all, AP style book, right? That's all about the mechanics of grammar.
Okay.
And I think that's important. But you also have to, it's something you need to do every day. And so I don't write every day. I try to. I keep a journal. And I do that in cursive, right? So I've got stacks of books that I've filled up with daily thoughts. And when I do that kind of stuff, it doesn't have to be big or fancy or flashy. It's just, I'll write things that, happened yesterday. So I'll do it in the morning over coffee. So my wife and I will typically read something positive in the morning. Right now we're reading Thomas Merton, who was a famous monk, right? His book, Seeds of Contemplation. But then sometimes I'll just write a page in my journal, and I'll do that in cursive, and I'll talk about one thing that happened the day before or something that's going to happen tomorrow. But it's just a way of, just engaging with that pencil and paper.
Well, I think what you're basically saying is if you want to improve your writing, you need to write.
You need to write.
That's pretty much it. And I've learned that, I've just over the years of pastoring and writing sermon after sermon after sermon after sermon. Writing forces you, whether it's pen and paper or on a computer. Number one, thinking is difficult.
Sure.
Ordering those thoughts into cohesion is difficult, but that's what the process of writing does, because the mind is a bit of a maelstrom. It's just this. That's why I call it brainstorming, right?
Yeah.
It's just kind of this.
A bit of a maelstrom.
Yeah. But writing forces you into that place where you have to purposely order those thoughts.
Sure.
So if you're going to improve your writing, you've got to write. You've got to,
right.
Like anything else, you have to practice.
Right.
And the more you do anything, the better at it you will get.
And the less words you can use to describe something, the better.
So, let's see. Descriptive, but without the fluff.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to, you don't need to, that's how books and articles wind up being bloated.
Sure.
Because I was reading, I might get some hate mail for this too. Well, what's the name of the book? It's one of the most famous books on how to win friends and influence people.
Sure.
I mean, it's a good book. But I was telling I was telling my wife the other day, or several weeks ago.
Dale Carnegie.
About it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Dale Carnegie.
I mean, it's a good book, and the principles in it are good, but I'm struggling through this book because you're telling me in every chapter about six or seven different stories that carry the same truth you're trying to convey.
Right.
So I just feel like every chapter is bloated, and I'm reading a whole lot more content than I really need to read.
But you got to put that book in context, though. That he wrote that in what, 1933?
Something like that.
Probably the first book on. Not only is it a book about salesmanship, but it's a book, but it's also about hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
You treat people the way you want to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody had ever written anything like that before.
True.
So
Fair.
how many times has that book been published?
Oh my God.
60, 70, 80 times?
Yeah.
And probably been translated in dozens of languages,
Yeah.
So at the time, put it in context, at the time, it was groundbreaking.
Right.
That's why it's so popular.
100%. I was just, my point was just I felt like it was a little bit bloated.
Sure.
But it's, which is not a knock on the,
but his editor probably never saw anything like that before.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not a knock on the functional reality of what this book is trying to accomplish.
Right.
But I see what you're saying. The less words you can use to describe whatever it is better.
Right. Yeah.
Just kind of laser focused. Let's get across.
Right.
All right, Chef, one last thing I want to jump to really quick here, and then we'll wrap up the show, and I'll let you be on your way. Something you said you want to talk about is how come so many Americans don't realize how lucky they are and that this is the greatest country in the history of the world? And before we dive into that and your thoughts on it, let me just say I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
America, with all of its
all of its flaws.
Flaws and warts and ugly spots.
Right.
I love this place.
Yeah.
It is. If you have had the fortune of traveling outside the United States, especially to places that are less developed.
Yeah. I hate that term, third world.
Sure.
Right. But my wife and I, we lived in Belize for a year. Not quite a year. And I've been fortunate that I've traveled to some pretty cool places. I think maybe 30 countries, Been to Morocco, been to Sweden, been to Austria, England, Mexico, Bahamas, keep going, right? A few years ago, all the kids were up in arms about slavery and our country's past. Well, you know what? What country is not without its sins? What country is not without its flaws? What culture is not without its flaws? And there was a lot of people claiming that, the flag represented slavery. Well, no, I'm sorry, it does not. It represents everything good and wonderful and everything wrong with our country. So the flag, our country, our flag, our culture, our history is certainly not without our sins. But why do you think so many people from Central and South America are trying to get in here, right? I tell you, we lived in Belize for 9 months, and we loved it. But there was no health care, so to speak. There was no educational system. I mean, there was, but it was very poor. I understand Costa Rica spends a lot of money on their free education and their health care. And we could certainly be better with our public education system. Yeah. We could certainly be better.
A huge mess.
Yeah, we could certainly be better with our healthcare system, right? It's a mess. My wife works in healthcare now. It's a mess. The insurance thing is such a mess. But we have incredible healthcare, right?
Mm-hmm.
It may be cumbersome and clunky at times, but golly Moses, man. I mean, think about this. If you were born in the year, let's say 900, let's do it like this. You've got a person that's born and lives for 50 years. They're born in the year 900, the year 1000, the year 1100, 1200, 1300, 1400, 1500. One person born in that year, and they live for 50 years. The changes, the progress they would have seen in healthcare, in education, in transportation, in communication would have been miserable, right? You could measure it in millimeters, right? I mean, look at let's say sailboats, right? So for thousands of years, wind power was the only way to get across water, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with medicine. I mean, up until the early 1900s, a lot of doctors were still using leeches to bleed out patients. So our country, because of this, our capitalism, we had so many people looking for better ways to do things.
Mm-hmm.
And think about the changes for somebody, like somebody was born in the 1500s, what they would have seen in the 1700s would have been, it's the same.
Same thing.
Exactly. Sailboats are the same. There's, everything is the same. Construction, architecture, whatever. Now, if you're born in 1900 and you lived 50, 60 years, the amount of changes you would have seen in this country would have been phenomenal.
I've thought about that very thing many times, that the world was pretty much the same until
capitalism.
The late 1800s?
Yeah.
You hit
exactly.
The Industrial Revolution, and then probably in the last 60 years,
mm-hmm.
we just kind of put our foot on the gas of
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah.
Well, like, I'm only 45. When I was a kid, there were no cell phones.
Nope.
There was no... I remember when the internet became a thing.
Yeah.
There was no...
Yeah, same here.
There was none of that.
Yeah.
You know? And so I'm in that... I was born in 79. So I'm in that kind of generation where I can use technology, but also there was none. And so your summer was spent playing in the backyard and running through the woods and
getting in trouble.
Using using the gumballs off the tree, and you had a wooden dowel, and you're, playing.
Yep.
That was my summer.
Yep.
Riding bikes through the neighborhood, and there was no technology as far as what, you and I would consider today.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an amazing thing. And like you said, our capitalistic society and the inventions that have
the innovations that this country has created, phenomenal.
Yeah.
In healthcare and transportation and science. And I mean, my gosh, we went to the darn moon. We put men on the moon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How incredible was that?
Yeah. I mean, that's phenomenal.
The Wright brothers invented controlled flight. Golly, look at Elon Musk's SpaceX. They caught a
I was just
damn
going to ask you
rocket with,
right.
What the hell,
it seems to me that
it's all about attitude, though. It's all about attitude in this country. It's all about attitude. If you're willing to work hard, right, and you want to better yourself or better whatever it is you're doing, right? And that's something that I preach to my clients all the time, is at the end of the day, you always ask yourself or your team, what did we do right? Where can we be better tomorrow? Right? And that attitude has been in this country for a long time.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, this is still the best country in the world for any number of reasons, but one of them is that you can still succeed here like no other place in the world.
Sure.
There's opportunities, innovate, opportunities just to, that old phrase, just kind of pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Yeah.
You have
find your niche. Find your niche. Yeah. Right?
Oh.
Find your niche and go for it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's wrap up this show, man. I had a great time. Chef, thanks for coming.
My pleasure, sir.
I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to meet with me.
Thank you for the wine. Thank you for the cigar. Absolutely. Thank you for the hospitality.
The nature of my podcast is that I do most of the smoking and the guest does all the talking. So you didn't get to smoke it all the way through. So
yeah, I got a good bit.
If you want to take it with you and enjoy the rest of it tonight, feel free. That's
yes, sir.
Cigar,
thank you.
Or you can just leave it there.
Thank you very much.
Do. But what did you think of the Red Meat Lovers?
Really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
very satisfying smoke.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's on the heavy side, which is where I like it. It burned well, constructed very well.
Yeah, good spice, good flavor.
Yeah.
Big, bold flavor.
Fantastic cigar. Easily in my top 5, if not my favorite. It's just a great cigar.
Cool.
Chef, how can people follow you on social media?
So I'm on social media as Chef John Malik, Malik.
Okay.
As is my website. And on my website, I've got a couple hundred essays on anything from food, the restaurant business, to life in Central America, or I spent about a month in Poland at the beginning of the war with Ukraine with World Central Kitchen. So I've got about a dozen essays there.
Wow.
I've got some poetry there, a little bit of everything.
Okay. Yeah. ChefJohnMalik.com. You can also find him on social media at Chef John Malik.
There you go.
All right. Look, if you are in need of my services as a realtor, I didn't run my realtor spot, but I am a realtor with Sedan Joyner, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. If you need my services as a realtor or with the Cigar Box, you can get me directly at 864-207-2316. Visit mobileCigarBox.com. As I said, you can follow me on social media at Mobile Cigar Box on both Instagram and X. You can also follow me on Instagram at Sunday Afternoon Smokes. If you need help with real estate, send an email to cstrother, that's STROTHER, cstrother@cdanjoiner.com. You've been listening to Sunday Afternoon Smokes. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it if you share it on your socials with your friends and family and with anybody else. Again, man, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Chris.
Man, thanks for having me on. Hey, everybody, we will talk to you very soon. I'll be back next Sunday with a fresh episode. Have a good one.